let's start with Rogan here. Do people still call him Rogaine? I remember that was the thing for a while. So, yeah, let's see what we got here.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So this is the one. He hops by, and as he hops by, the breeze makes the flag blow.
I mean, are they really going to be going over the silly stuff? Like, they never focused on the actual, like, EMF extraction, you know, the time delay, the how the signals were actually transmitted.
Because he's in an air environment. He's not on the moon.
Right. That is a weird one. Do it again. Look at this. As he hops by, he doesn't touch the flag.
Now, can I do devil's advocate? What do you call it? Steel what?
Steel man.
Okay, the reason why it's doing that, and really on the moon, is because there's micrometeorites hitting him, and they're bouncing off of him and hitting the flag.
Wait, micrometeorites? Wow.
What?
Is that a pretty good one?
Is that real?
No.
Oh, I thought they were trying that
I was trying to come up with an excuse.
Ah, okay. Well, that is in line with the scientism cult, trying to come up with excuses like that.
As to why the moon landings are real. You like that one?
That is a good one. Micrometeorites will mess you up.
Well, actually, Von Braun, we found publications of his. Mind you, my film cost $1 million. It was financed by a board member of an aerospace company who builds rockets for NASA, who knows it's fake, who gave me $1 million to produce these films as his patriotic duty to expose it. We found documentation from Von Braun that says every 24 hours on the moon, there's a 50% chance of a catastrophic, deadly error because of decompression from a micrometeorite. So they were there 3 days. They were 150% chance they would have been killed from a micrometeorite. Grain of sand traveling through space at 25,000 miles an hour.
Well, not just that, just the life support system in the suit. I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong other than micrometeorites, if those are even real.
He said you would have to immediately go into a cave once you landed. They never did that.
Lowry says, you've already got a gatekeeper in Rogan. You've got a spaceball guy who loves space, but knows we didn't land on the moon. This is totally going to be weird.
He also said in writing, in order to go to the moon in one rocket, he says that cannot happen. You need 3 rockets, each being 10 times the tonnage of the Queen Mary, or some 800,000 tons each.
Well, that definitely sounds a little bit more plausible, doesn't it?
In order to go to the moon. And the Saturn V was 2,500 tons, not 800,000 tons. We have that in writing.
That was from his book, right? And what year was that?
I think that came out in 1959, and then he recanted on his math shortly thereafter by 30,000%.
Well, clearly they know what they're doing with those kinds of margins of error.
And now Elon Musk wants to, quote, return to the moon. And he says to return to the moon, we need to make 9 fuel trips first to ferry the fuel necessary to be able to go to the moon from there. That's exactly what Von Braun said in one of my clips at Sabrel.com. You have to make multiple fuel trips to go to the moon first to a space station, and then from there you can go. Elon Musk said the same thing. But how did they do it with a rocket that contained 1/30,000% of the amount of fuel Von Braun said it would?
I wonder if Rogan is going to address anything he just said. I really do wonder. Let's see.
One of my favorite films is the film of the lunar module leaving the moon.
So no, he didn't address anything that was said.
When it leaves, when the camera pans, and it looks Let's film. Let's show it. Let's show what year was that? Which
I think that was one of the last missions. And I think you're talking about where the camera perfectly tilts up.
Lowry says, "This is so weird. Two guys talking that kind of know they're lying to themselves. So friggin' weird. It's like a really well-written Broadway show." Wow. Master thespians.
Yeah.
With the little model going up.
Yes.
And, of course, with the delay, how could you synchronize that? Of course, you couldn't.
Well, you could, because you know it's 4 seconds, right? Just like it's radio waves.
Well, but it...
What? He just said radio waves the way people say gravity. Oh, it worked because radio waves. I mean, Joe Rogan doesn't seem to understand how any of the waves even work. If he thinks, I mean, I would like him to explain how a live signal was transmitted from the moon to Earth. Again, if you guys haven't listened to the Apollo series on MindShock, the latest episode, I actually went over with Professor Smith, actually, on what would have been required to send the signal that distance. And what kind of wiring would be required on the moon just to get that all set in order to send the signal. Like a news truck has all these tons of cables just and a giant antenna just to send the signal a few blocks down to the studio to broadcast. I mean, just imagine what would be required from the moon.
Probably be more than that going through all the analog equipment.
Right, but you could time it. You could save. You could have a 5-second delay. So this is it. So this is launching off the. Watch this. And
it's perfectly tilting up with it in real time.
It's just
with the remote control from NASA with the radio delay that I suspect would be more like 12 seconds.
But also
because today, if you say to someone in Atlanta talking to someone in Iraq, "Hey, how's it going?" 1, 2, 3. Hey, I'm doing fine.
What if they just
that's
put a timer on it?
That's just on
you can
halfway
put a
around
timer
the
on it.
world.
You can put the panning is interesting, but you could put a timer on it. The thing looking so goofy is so crazy. Like that thing is supposed to get off 1/6 Earth's gravity and fly like that. How? What's it doing? It looks so fucking fake. It looks like it's being pulled by strings. Look, it might be real. I'm certainly not an astronaut. I don't know what I'm talking about.
So he clearly doesn't know what he's talking about, the time delay or the radio waves either. But listen to how confident he was and how they could have rigged it with the time delay. Now all of a sudden he's saying, well, obviously appealing to credentials fallacies, appeal to authority fallacies. But still, he clearly says he doesn't know what he's talking about. But listen to the confidence in his voice he had on how they could have rigged it with a time delay.
But if you had a guess, if you showed this to me and said, "Hey, do you think this is real or fake?" and you didn't give me any context, I'd be like, "What is this? A cheap science fiction movie?"
So context. So Rogan he needs an appeal to authority fallacy. He needs his blankie. He needs the establishment scientism cult to tell him it's from NASA, because then he'll believe it. But without the context, so he just made a glaring admission here. I mean, Rogan just admitted how much of a mentally weak cultist goof he is. He needs context. He needs his string puller to tell him what to think about it. He doesn't have enough mental wherewithal. He doesn't have enough mental capacity to judge that clip for himself without context. Wow, I don't think I've ever heard Rogan expose himself quite like this before. I mean, this is kind of crazy. I mean, this admission is, the need for his coincidence theorist blankie, his authority-worshipping cultist blankie.
What is this? And then here it goes, like, that's leaving a planet? How's it leaving? Is that some new space technology? Where's the fire coming out of the bottom of it? How's it doing that? I mean, it just looks fake. It might be real. It might be one of those things that is real but looks fake.
All right, see, so then this is where it gets weird, because it doesn't say the timer. It said somebody in Houston had to anticipate the timing ignition liftoff, which I guess he could have guessed it was going to be in 5 seconds and just lifted the remote control up.
Could he have guessed?
I have no idea what he was using. I have to look that up.
I
now,
guess
you
you
know.
could guess if you say, I'm going to launch
Also, if they timed
in
it.
5,
Yeah.
and so then you count 10, because he's gonna say, you got like a 5.
Wait, I don't know what that goof Jamie just looked up. It's not a guess. They claimed it was a very definitive remote control. I went over this on the Apollo series on MindShock. It was not a guess. Yeah, Jamie is such a goof. He got so triggered with Eddie Bravo. He got to mention that he got an A in physics class while being too utterly clueless to know the basic definition of anything being discussed.
Second delay. And so when he gets to, like, if he counts down from 10, if he gets to 5, you hit it.
Well, there's a 3-second delay today, halfway around the world with modern equipment, talking from like Atlanta to Iraq.
Right.
3-second delay.
He also could have fucked it up. We
Only
could have never
halfway
seen
around
it.
the world with modern equipment.
He
So
has to
going-
say it. So
so
the guy on the
going-
moon has to say, I'm launching
It
now,
could-
and he has to wait 5 seconds.
It would be at least a 12-second delay, I think, and possibly more than that. The delay itself of the radio, light waves there and back, plus all that analog equipment.
But it is not
slowing it down.
impossible to do a 12-second delay. It's only 12 seconds. If you had a stopwatch and you counted it, and
Well, no. That's 12 seconds if you have the proper equipment, which might require a radio broadcasting tower much larger than any building on Earth on the moon in order to transmit that signal. So it's not just, it might be 12 seconds if you had the equipment. But obviously Rogan too utterly clueless to consider any of that.
you had a far enough vision where you could see the base of the lunar module, you could see it detach, and then you kind of got it as long as you got enough of a field of view in the footage. But boy, it looks fake. It also looks fake in the way it's moving up. It's watch it again, Jamie, because it's moving up like it's being pulled by strings.
Well, it looks fake because it is fake.
But
Look at Rogan getting triggered. Look at Rogan's expression. It looks fake because it is fake. I mean, what a shocker. Who could have thunk it? Who could have thunk that something might be fake that looks fake? That just might be too out there for Rogan. It might be too out there of a concept for Joe Rogan. His goofery never fails to astound. I mean,
most things that look fake are fake.
Wow. I mean, the intellectual powerhouse, Joe Rogan. Most things that look fake are fake.
Not all of them, but the vast majority of things that look fake are fake. Now watch how this pulls up. Here it goes.
It's a real meeting of the minds here.
It detaches. It's like, what is that? Now here's the question: did they practice this at all on Earth? Did they practice taking off on one of those things, or could
I
they?
don't think they
Because
did.
they couldn't.
practiced landing.
But here's the question: they
yeah.
couldn't, right? Because it wouldn't have the same amount of thrust on Earth because the gravity is so much stronger. So that thing wouldn't have been operational on Earth, right?
The gravity is so much stronger. Circular reasoning, logical fallacy, false premise. I mean, just the amount of fallacies Rogan spews. I mean, it would probably take me weeks to redo the Rogan Eddie Bravo logical analysis with the counters.
Well, they had a lunar lander simulator that Neil Armstrong almost got killed in 6 weeks beforehand. He couldn't fly it on Earth in the safety of a tried and true environment, and that was 6 weeks.
Right, but also,
beforehand.
again, the gravity of Earth is much greater than the gravity of the
Well,
moon.
they took that into account. It was supposed to be a simulation of it, but
So
the
it was more
simulation-
powerful to overcome Earth's gravity in
Right.
comparison. Yeah.
Right.
But so then you're dealing with a totally different machine, and you're dealing with totally different factors. Maybe it would be easy with 1/6 Earth's gravity.
Yeah, maybe it'd be easy. Maybe it'd be so easy they should just film all movies shot on the moon, taking place on the moon, because it's so much easier. I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson's blunder. It would be easier to go. It would be harder to fake it than to go for real. So according to Neil deGrasse Tyson's so-called logic, they should just film all movies that take place on the moon. If it's on Mars, just film it on Mars, because it's too hard to fake it. I mean, the level of gophery here, it's just off the charts gophery.
Maybe easy, like wee, boom, it lands, and wee, it
Apparently,
takes off.
apparently it was.
But 1/6, I would like to know, like, how much thrust do you need to get off of the gravity of the moon?
I'm gonna put a clip here. This is one of my favorite clips from my Apollo series on MINDSHOCK. What a real moon landing would really look like. Relative to the difference in gravity. Oh, YouTube's starting to play some games here. It doesn't want me to put up the clip. The games have begun. Oh, this is so annoying, but I will get it on the screen because I cannot be stopped. Just gonna take a couple extra seconds here. Again, this is one of my favorite clips. Just for all the goofs that hallucinate that there's nothing strange. That there's nothing strange in the footage and that everything is the way it's supposed to be.
Gravity, the difference in gravity, and they've done simulations. You can find CGI footage of what it would look like to walk and jump on the moon at 1/6 gravity, and it does not look like what the moon footage looks like. Not to mention, you have, I mean, we'll get into the specific details in each episode, but you have things that don't even match the known laws of physics in that footage regarding the landers and all of those things, which again we'll go into in specifics. But if that footage looks relatively fake and people are supposed to take it on blind faith, that's problematic for scientific minded individuals. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Well, we have to do a separate podcast, Bruce, on this because what this is actually entering into is what is referred to as the pack mentality, and there's different types of mentalities. There's A-type, mentalities. There's pack-minded
JR spinning his wheels is hilarious.
mentality, where you're either a true believer or you're not a true believer. It could be a cult, or it could be, a church, or it could be a, let me ask you a question. The mafia. There are people that blindly follow and join into an organized, what the government would refer to as a RICO-based organization. They do it blindly. They might have reasons. They might have starving babies. They might need money. They might need this. They might need that. You've seen, and I'm sure that a lot of your podcast people have seen, movies where, there's that, like, crying guy in the interrogation room.
Look at that
Says
magic
you can't say
lip.
no to these people. Now let me ask you a question. To an organization that can print its own money, has its own military, and has the ability to basically vaporize, based on nuclear war, what it wants at which.
So you see there, when you just change the frame rate, you can see that they shot it on Earth, and then they just slowed it down. Because obviously, if it was 1/6 gravity, he'd be going 6 times higher.
Has its own military, and has the
I mean, he would be going way higher than that.
to basically vaporize, based on nuclear war, what it wants at will. How do you say no to those people?
I mean, a lot of goofs don't understand. 600% difference. That's a lot. I mean, look at NASA's own simulation. Look at NASA's own simulation of 1/6. Look at that height. And of course, the moon footage looks identical to anything shot on Earth. I mean, I've never seen a rebuttal for this from the NASA bootlickers. I've never seen the only thing they say is, oh, he's wearing kind of a heavier suit. So yeah, he's wearing a heavier suit, so it wouldn't be quite as high as the simulation. It would be a little bit lower than the simulation, but clearly not exactly the way it looks shot on Earth. Just trying to catch up with the comments here. So yeah, I mean the heavy suit only goes so far. I did the math on the suit. It would if the suit is roughly, I mean we could double check it again now. So it was about 110 pounds. So not even the weight. The average astronaut was 175 pounds. So not even the weight of the astronaut. So yeah, it would be a little bit lower than the simulation due to the weight. But not the same exact look as on Earth. I mean, the level of goofery. Alright, let's continue here.
If it's 1/6 Earth's gravity versus what it takes to get off of Earth. Like, what are those calculations? And how is that amount of force being generated by that thing? And is it? Because that would be a really good question.
Look at this goof's face. I mean, this goof is mentally gone. I mean, he's mentally gone. Whatever semblance of a functioning human seems to have left that vessel quite some time ago.
Because if you can't prove that you could do that, like, how do you do that?
Well, this is one reason why NASA destroyed all the schematics, all the electronics, all the diagrams of the equipment, because you could later prove that the lunar module, see, they claimed that the lunar module was powering air conditioning on a bank of car batteries and competed against 250 degrees outside and got it down to a comfortable 72.
I didn't even look at that yet. That's funny. That's funny.
For 3 or 4 days.
That's kind of hilarious.
I mean, you try that at home, you know, with your car batteries.
Also, batteries of today. Like, my
That's right.
Tesla only goes 350 miles if
That's
I
right.
drive real slow.
And so they're saying they powered air conditioning off much more primitive batteries, 24 hours, 3 or 4 days in a row, against 250 degree outside. So this is an indirect proof. If
it's 215 degrees, the air conditioner's not going to do anything. What's it going to do? Bring it down to 200? They said they brought it down to the 70s? What? I mean, that does seem like a tall tale.
you really went to the moon and spent $200 billion.
I mean, when it's over 100 out, like, what does your air conditioner actually get down? It doesn't work as well. The higher the temperature, the less the air conditioner can do. Because it just takes too much energy. I mean, when it's 80 out, your AC can probably drop it quite a bit. When it's 90, not so much. When it's over 100, I mean, your AC would be lucky to get it down to 90. I mean, we're talking about regular ACs here, but still.
You would never destroy the technology. But one of the clips we have is them saying that they intentionally destroyed all of the equipment to go to the moon. All the diagrams, all the hardware, all the schematics, all the original telemetry of where the rocket was at the time, and all the original videotapes. Ron Howard's grandfather warned him the moon landings were fake. He didn't listen. He wanted to make an IMAX movie. He went to NASA, said, give me all the originals so I can transfer it to HD, and project it at 120 feet wide. They said, give us a couple of days. And in those days, they lost every single original videotape from every single Apollo mission.
I actually didn't know that story. So they conveniently only lost it when specifically asked for it to be converted to high def on an IMAX screen. Wow. I mean, I don't think anybody here is surprised. I'm not surprised that's how the timing worked out. That's how the timing, they only lost it after they were asked for it for high def large screen projection. That's curious. I wonder what all the coincidence theorists would say to that.
Now, if you really went to the moon and spent $200 billion, the last thing you would do is destroy that technology. But if you perpetrated a fraud, that's exactly what you would do.
So
That's another good point, too. Like a lot of coincidence theorists, authority-worshipping cultists, bootlickers, they never look at it from the perspective of if it's fraud, what actions would have been taken, and do they match the actions that were taken? Coincidence theorists will never, they're too mentally weak to even approach it from that angle, from a logical, objective, neutral angle.
was this, Jamie?
I think video of them practicing.
So is this
This is landing, but not
landing?
taking
Is
off.
that there's Neil Armstrong?
It's the same machine, I believe.
So this is the one that he was practicing on that he almost died in? Look at that thing. Wow, that's crazy.
There's also an article I found about how they filmed it. They tried on Apollo 15 and 16 and failed for different reasons, and then they finally got it right on 17.
So it was a timing thing. So several second delay. Here it goes. The cameras were very successful capturing the images of numerous EVAs, but while they could be controlled from Houston, it was felt that several second delay between Earth and the moon would make capturing the module's ascent impossible. So the plan was to pre-program the camera and hope that NASA camera operator in Houston, Ed Fendel, got his timing just right. On Apollo 15, the tilt mechanism malfunctioned, meaning the camera was never panned upwards, and thus the lunar module rapidly accelerated upwards and out of the picture. On Apollo 16 mission, the astronauts actually parked the rover in the wrong place, so while the cameras worked perfectly.
I mean, the fact that they parked, or even it was alleged that they parked it in the wrong place, if they even were on the moon, I mean, that just really shows how much could go wrong. And that was one of the main points I brought up in episode 1 of the Apollo missions on MINDSHOCK, was they would never take the chance to broadcast it live, just because if something went wrong, it just doesn't seem like they would ever take that chance. It's too, I mean, it was practically guaranteed that, I mean, even without von Braun's calculations, I mean, look at what happens here on Earth, or some of these deep sea divers. I mean, tragedies happen all the time. For something this unprecedented, it was practically guaranteed that there would be casualties. So why would they live stream their casualties and failures during the Cold War? It's weird.
It was too close to the module, and again, once it lit up the engines, it accelerated swiftly out of picture. Happily,
We got Sean Hawkins in the chat, psychologically projecting. Interesting. Your psychological projection is not a fallacy because your subconscious knows you best. So, yeah, continue exposing yourself if you have nothing else to do. I love the Dunning-Kruger goofs who come in here and prove the points against themselves better than anybody else ever could.
Apollo 17 got everything right. But what is perhaps most remarkable about looking back on it was that no one realized the significance of the liftoff at the time. Persistent rumors suggest that NASA had to pay the networks to cover Apollo.
Sean Hawkins continuing the projection. So you're dodging your subconscious exposing you? You're too mentally weak to address it? You have to dodge and call yourself a retard? I mean, I don't think anybody here is disputing your subconscious description of yourself. So, I mean, who are you trying to convince here? I mean, nobody's arguing with your subconscious here.
17 mission at all. And when final liftoff of humanity from the moon took place, it barely raised a mention on that evening's news reports. That's a really important point, too, because people were really tired of it. Like, they were mad that it was interrupting I Dream of Jeannie.
I Love Lucy.
Oh, that's what it was. I Love
Yes.
Lucy. Yeah.
Well, that's from Wikipedia that continually defends the fake moon landings.
Space Ghost 90 says, I love that Bruce is bringing Joe Rogan to light. Have you listened to the Joe Rogan versus Eddie Bravo breakdown? It's about 6 hours of just Rogan getting exposed. Sean Hawkins, I don't know. Your subconscious doesn't seem to show that you can do better than projecting, but I mean, if you can, go ahead. I mean, we love the laughs here. Dunning-Kruger goofs always welcome here.
In fact, if you type in moon landing fraud, you don't get anything about the fraud. You get 1,000 videos defending, the supposed moon missions. Now, if the moon missions are real, then anyone who says otherwise is an idiot.
Okay, so how do they defend?
If I were going around saying George Washington was not the first president, it was really Mickey Mouse, do you think there'd be 1,000 videos to reassure people that George Washington was the first president?
Oh, he makes this point. I've made this point a million times. People aren't gonna spend all this time and energy on something that's silly nonsense. Like, how many full-time anti-Mothman grifters are there? Or even anti-Bigfoot? Or anti-ghost?
Not Mickey Mouse, but there's 1,000 videos out there that took tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours to produce to defend the moon landings. If it's so obvious, they should speak for themselves. It has to be continually supported because it's made out of straw. That's why.
So the lunar module leaving the surface of the
I like how Rogan completely ignored everything he just said.
moon, how did they practice that? If it was the first time they ever pulled that off, the first time they ever tried it? Was that Apollo 11?
I think they
Yeah, trendy now, but here's the thing. How many dedicated full-time channels are there to trying to prove that ghosts aren't real? I mean, full-timers. So-called debunking all of the ghost evidence. Man, Sean Hawkins' subconscious really exposing him. His subconscious really doesn't like him, humiliating himself like this in the chat. Wow, sad.
used a simulation.
But did they do that on the moon?
Well, they couldn't practice. They
Right,
had to
so,
do
but
it
they-
for the first time.
Did-
They
did-
did
did
it
they have the
flawlessly every
ability?
single time.
Did they have the ability to land something on the moon and have it take off remotely? Did they have that kind of control back then?
No, I don't think so.
Probably not, right? So if they did, if Apollo 11 did happen and they did take off, and that time they did it was the first time anybody had ever tried to use one of those things to get off the surface of the moon. So
Worked
they,
every time
With a
flawlessly.
person in it.
with a person in it, with two people in it. Three.
They
No,
landed
two. Two people in it, one person in the lunar orbiter.
10 were launched into space. Of those, 6 landed by humans onto the moon. First 2 were flown tests in low Earth orbit without a crew at the
Man, Jamie sounds even more mentally disabled than he did with Eddie Bravo. Did he get some kind of medical treatments or something? What's wrong with Jamie? I mean, he sounds mentally just absolutely disabled, talking slow, just not a lot of comprehension on anything. He sounds a lot worse than he used to.
Apollo, though.
Let's talk about the AI discovery. You know about that, right?
But hold on, before we get going. So the first two were in America?
Dress rehearsal for the landing was Apollo 10 and then conducted on Apollo 11.
And so is there footage of them trying that thing?
Apollo 10?
No, just having it launch on Earth. I'd be fascinated to see what it looks like. How that thing gets into the air. Because if they were able to make a lunar lander that Neil Armstrong got in, that thing that looked very different than the ones that were on the moon. But that thing, if he's doing that to try to overcome the 6 times gravity that Earth has over the moon, what does that look like when they're testing that thing? Like, how much thrust does it have, and where is the engine? Where is the rockets that propel that thing into space? Like, where do you fit those? This is my question. And so how did they explain that away? Like, what is the conventional explanation as to how that thing had the amount of power that was required to get off of the moon's gravity, get away from the moon, and fly to Earth?
Well, how did they do it with 1/30,000th of a percent of the fuel that von Braun said they had to. Why is it today, to quote, return to the moon, you have to make 9 fuel trips to be able to go to the moon and return, but somehow they did it in 1 trip?
Rogan just like ignores all these points and is goofery. Trendy Now says Joe Rogan is the guy in the Matrix movie that snitches in the steak eating scene. Yeah, he doesn't want to know he's in the Matrix. Yeah, Space Ghost 90, check it out. I did a logical analysis on Eddie Bravo versus Joe Rogan. I think you'll enjoy it. I'll drop the link in here in a second.